If you couldn't tell by the numerous anime references I've made in my videos, or by the fact that I've hidden a Pokemon in every single one of those videos, comment if you can find the one hidden in this one. I am a big fan of Japan. I've consumed their shows, listened to their music, and karera no gengo o benkyou shita. The only thing I haven't managed to do is to actually visit the land of the rising sun. I was supposed to go as my 18th birthday present, but then COVID happened. So, instead I was gonna go as a graduation gift, but the pandemic was still showing some lingering effects, so going was complicated. But when the opportunity finally presented itself, I took it, and with a quick layover in Italy, my mother and I managed to visit. Going in, I had 5 objectives. Stay at a ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn, try an onsen, hot springs, spend a day in Akihabara and get some sweet anime merch, stay at the manga hotel in Tokyo, and visit the manga museum. But not even an hour after arriving in Tokyo did we make a discovery that would come as a blessing to me and a curse to my mother. You are not allowed to smoke in Japan. At least, not wherever you want. You have to go to a specific area in order to do so. Which I loved, because everything just felt so much cleaner. But my mom ended up dragging me down with her, because as the only one between us who speaks a lick of Japanese, I'm the one who kept having to ask where these areas were. So, after a quick smoke, we grabbed our luggage, exchanged our money, grabbed a phone number to be able to navigate the country, and hopped on a Shinkansen over to Osaka. Luckily, before coming here, we talked to some of our friends that live here, Biru-san, a fellow Japan enthusiast, and Miko-sama, his awesome wife. So, we'd be staying with them in Osaka. We arrived pretty late at night, so after some sushi, we went to sleep. Day 1. I was supposed to go to the USJ with my Japanese teacher's daughter and her friends and enjoy the theme park. But she got sick. So instead, I joined my mother and our friends in going to see some Noh theater. We saw 2 performances that day. A short one in the park, which coupled with a beautiful day and the cherry blossoms sprinkling down from the trees, just felt super aesthetic, even if we barely understood a thing. And a second one, which lasted for 4 hours! Now, let me tell you something, dear viewer. Severe jet lag, plus being in a static position for 4 hours, plus not being able to understand anything that's being said, doesn't have a good result. On top of that, we were in the front row. I was doing all I could to not fall asleep. I didn't want to disrespect the performers. It was during the intermission that I received it for the first time. While waiting for the bathroom, a man looked me up, then down, and slowly said, "Oh, 背が高いね." はい、高いです. The first of many. Coupled with the "Nihongo jozu desu ne" I had received during lunch, I was 1 for 1 on the counters. Not much happened after that. We had some dinner and headed home, with my mother and I feeling completely exhausted. Day 2! I went to the supermarket to buy some breakfast, with my way teeming with cherry blossoms trickling down from the skies above. I was listening to a random song that had just popped up on Spotify, so I just had this super aesthetic moment as I walked. After breakfast, we ventured into the city, where we met up with some friends, and after eating lunch, we headed to Nara, where we visited the big Buden Todaiji temple. We also saw some bowing deer. Day 3, we headed to Kyoto, where I met my Japanese teacher in person for the first time. We were meant to visit some shrines and temples, but ended up going to the manga museum instead. Scratch that one off the list, where not only did we see a lot of manga, but also learned a lot, including a reminder of business synergy and horizontal integration, stuff my mother teaches in her class. I also saw this great Kamishibai performance. With my broken Japanese, I could only understand about half of what he was saying, but his intonation and acting made it very entertaining. We had lunch at a nearby traditional restaurant that my teacher was well acquainted with, and spent the rest of the day visiting shrines and temples as planned. Day 4! We visited Nijo Castle, a beautiful palace with lots of stunning scenery around it. Then, my mother and I separated as she was having lunch with some old friends who were also visiting Japan, while me and Biru-san ended up having the best ramen I've eaten in my life in some random shop. Later, We met up with my mother and my Japanese teacher at a nearby museum, where I took a rock as my friend had asked me to get her one as a souvenir so she may one day return it. Day 5. Our last day in Kansai. We started the day visiting a lovely shop where my mother bought some garments and souvenirs. Then we headed to a nearby restaurant before ending the day at the Osaka Museum. Day 6. We spent the morning planning logistics and heading over to Hakone. It was hard to get to with all the rain and wind on the way, but we got there safe and sound. This is the day where we stayed at a ryokan. Scratch one item off the list, and this place had its own onsen. Scratch another. After an expensive dinner with some business friends of Miko-sama, one who even said he'd offer me a job if my Japanese got better, I finally went to the onsen. I got to wear this kimono in order to go, and since it was pretty late, I had the place all to myself. Honestly, it was a bit underwhelming with the water not being as warm as I had imagined, but it was still a pretty nice experience being able to look at the night sky, except it was cloudy. Day 7. After sleeping on a tatami and discovering a love for floor chairs, we had breakfast and checked out, heading to Tokyo. On the way, we tried booking a capsule for me at the manga hotel, but alas, it was all booked solid. We had waited too long. I will not get to fulfill that wish. Oh well, next time. We booked a different capsule hotel that had some manga, and went our separate ways, as my mother, Biru-san, and Miko-sama were staying in a different hotel. This was my first time in Tokyo, and being by myself, it was pretty overwhelming. I quickly got lost. But somehow, among the 41 million people in Tokyo, I bumped into Miko-sama's friend from the previous night, who, through some broken communication, helped me find my way around. In no time at all, I had more or less figured out how to navigate the subway system, and found my way to my hotel, where I couldn't read any of the manga because, while I'm kinda decent at speaking Japanese, my reading and listening comprehension are nowhere near that level. Day 8. After a night of some surprisingly good sleep, I headed over to Akihabara, where my mother and I bought a new camera, had lunch, and I was left to my own devices. A day all to myself in Akihabara. Scratch that one off the list. I had one objective here, find some Mushoku Tensei merchandise, as it's my favorite anime at the moment. So I called my best friend Fabian and talked to him as I searched. It took some time, but I finally found something in a second-hand shop. It was a selfie figure. It was great. Except it was 30,000 yen. Way too rich for my blood. I ended up getting a few figures like Rengoku, Anya riding Bond, a small Spider-Gwen, a little Deku, and some music discs like the Mushoku soundtrack, which was a pretty big score. I also got a few souvenirs to give to my friends, like this Mayuri figure for Fabian since she's his favorite character of all time. Day 9. My last full day in Japan. I went back to meet with my mother, Biru-san and Miko-sama. Except when I arrived, my mother was recovering from what seemed to be a pretty wild night. So, to help her recover, Biru-san and I were tasked with getting some medicine and fruit for my mom. Even as the middle of the day rolled around, she wasn't feeling up to much, so we went to the Ghibli exhibition without her. Only to realize you needed a reservation for that. So we stopped at a shopping center where I bought some more little souvenirs and manga to practice reading, and we ate sushi. We said goodbye to Biru-san and Miko-sama, and my mother and I spent the rest of the day walking around the neighborhood in Tokyo, deciding to have dinner at another sushi restaurant. Day 10. After packing up and checking out of the hotel, we headed to the airport to catch our flight, but halfway there, I started checking my pockets and realized I lost my passport! I started looking frantically through my suitcase and bag. I always left in this one specific spot, so the fact that it wasn't there threw me into a complete panic. As I searched, my mother started messaging the hotel, Biru-san and Miko-sama, trying to find a solution. It was then a little memory entered my brain, one that I had apparently deleted. I had moved the passport from the usual spot to a valuables bag. With the passport in hand, we returned back home. My mother jokes to this day that I love Japan so much that I didn't want to leave. And she's right, I want to go back desperately! By the end of this grand trip, I had received a total of 7 Seiga Takai and 9 Nihongo Jouzu desu ne. It was less than I expected, honestly. But now it's time for the big plot twist. A twist that will leave you questioning reality itself. This whole thing happened last year. It was a very fun trip, and since I went, I've wanted to make a video on it, but it's only happening now for various reasons. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Show me that you want more Japan anime-centered things, and check out one of these other videos that are somewhat related to the topic of Japan. Until next time, everyone, mata ne!